Alright, so in this one, I'm going to be going through and planning out some ideas for Bitcoin. I have pretty much just been scalping the lower time frames since we broke up out of this range down here, but I want to go through and plan out some kind of higher time frame, higher probability ideas to show how I go about coming up with these plans. And I already did one in my last video. I talked about this zone of support, which was Confluence with the anchored VWAPs and also the higher end of the value area of the pull of the uptrend, which has changed a little bit because we have put in another higher high. So I think this was previously what I was looking at. I was looking at the value area high and point of control. So now if we pull this up to the highest wick since then, it doesn't change too much. Looks like the point of control might have moved up slightly. I might have actually just brought this box a little bit lower than the point of control though, because you can wick it out. But the value area high clearly has moved to the upside, so might as well move the box up a little bit, kind of cover this little miniature low time frame range that we got right here. And that is certainly still an idea. Of course, under the condition that there's some sort of confirmation in that area. And this is not going to be my trade setup. I'm not going to set a limit order with a stop loss right below this point of control because who knows if it's going to work. But I'm just going to leave this position here to show that I'm planning something at that area. And that is idea number one for the long side. So idea number two, what happens if we do not lose this value area low as support? Because I think if we do, then it's a pretty high chance that we end up making our way down to this box, considering there's a fair value gap right here, basically just straight up price action. There's like a void of price action there, so it's very easy to reclaim that. But what happens if we just start working our way down and try to hold the value area low as support? Is there any kind of confluence around there right now? And off the bat, I am seeing a few wicks that are higher lows. So if anyone had their stop losses below this wick, it is probably still intact unless they moved it. And same for this wick. So there's potentially stop losses down below there. And, we could potentially SFP them, stop out those trades, maybe even bait people into going short, thinking that we're definitely coming down to fill this fair value gap. Also, on a lower time frame, seemingly breaking market structure because this wick right here is a higher low, but we could end up just SFPing it, coming back up only, leaving a wick there, not closing below this wick on any significant time frame, and that would still count as holding the value area low as support. As long as we don't close below it, then I think there's a decent chance that if this happens, we could see some kind of a bounce from it. Maybe a significant one, maybe only a temporary one, but that is definitely an idea that I want to have planned out as well. And rather than keeping this fixed range pull on my screen, which makes my screen messy every time I change time frames, I'm just going to label it with a horizontal line. So that is the value area low. And these down here are the wicks that I am potentially looking to take out. And again, confirmations are a must, but if we, for example, SFP this, maybe have some kind of lower time frame divergences on market cipher, we start reclaiming this wick back here and also reclaiming the value area low. I think that's important, and that is certainly an idea that I personally would consider, so I will label that as idea number two. And I'm going to put my entry above the value area low because I would like to see that reclaimed. So that is roughly the idea right there. And one more thing I was looking at more locally, again, looking at this local uptrend that we are in because we are still in an uptrend. What happens if we are just right now retracing to make a higher low somewhere? Could we potentially plan out something that could make for a higher low? I think it's a good idea, so why not? And I am just going to start pulling up some stuff because I have not planned this out yet. But first thing I'll do, I'll take a fib retracement. Let's see where the golden pocket 786 is coming in. And it is right below us. We actually just front ran it. I drag this over holding shift so it doesn't move. We just front ran the golden pocket right there. And I believe we also front ran the value area low if you're kind of looking at this as a sideways range. And we did. So the value area low is confluent. Is that a word? Confluent? I don't know. I'm just going to go with it. It is coming in right around the golden pocket. So there's confluence there. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do, going back to this idea before I continue with this, there's a bit more confluence that I want to point out. So I did pull an anchored VWAP from this low right here. Reason being, this was the last low of any kind of significant retracement. We retraced, and then from there it was basically up only. and that anchored VWAP is coming in right below those lows, which I was looking to SFP. So there is some confluence with this trade as well. Depending on how long it takes to get down there, this could move up by the time we work our way down here. So, we could also just wick out the anchored VWAP, reclaim that. That could still be a little bit of confluence. So let's see if there's any other confluence down here. Let's check an anchored VWAP from this low. We already lost that, so I wouldn't really look at that. So, really I think one idea here, I think there could be multiple ideas here. There's a lot of ways this could play out, but, one idea is SFPing this low that front ran those levels and getting bullish divergences as we do so. So, yeah, I would be watching for confirmations if we end up SFPing into the golden pocket, also taking out the value area low ideally. And if we don't immediately SFP this low, if we kind of start working our way down below the golden pocket, but we eventually start forming bullish divergences within the golden pocket 786 area, and of course if we then start breaking market structure and reclaiming the value area low, then that could be an idea as well. That could be another way that this plays out. So, very roughly, I will kind of put two ideas here. I'll put one where we SFP into the golden pocket, and I'll put another one where, let's say, we start seeing bullish divs below the value area low, and then we start reclaiming it. Who knows where the stop loss is going to be. I'll just leave it below the 786. But, we won't know until we actually see how price develops, so it's not like it matters. And, obviously, I think I would prefer the SFP one because the risk-reward is much better. I could lock this trade in by the time we get up to point of control. And, I could close 1/3 of the trade, lock in over 1%. I like to, kind of TP at a 3-to-1, and then from there it could continue to run. And I think I'm going to leave it at that for long ideas. I'm not really seeing anything else that's sticking out to me. I don't like anything in this zone below this low and, before this area of support down here. I think that's super risky territory. And if things progress and none of these ideas end up even getting hit, let's say this low right here is the low and we just continue to put on another higher high, then I'll start planning out some new long trades from whatever price gives me. Now, I do want to come up with some short ideas. My bias right now is certainly favoring the longs. I think shorts are more risky, but there have definitely been some good short trades. It's just, I would definitely be looking for more confident confirmations for those shorts. Given the higher time frame context, considering we're in such a bullish environment, I am definitely going to be more careful with planning out short trades. In fact, I almost don't really want to plan out any within this local range of price action. If anything, I would really look at this high. I'd say if we SFP that high with some kind of bearish confirmation, that's really the only thing I'd be willing to plan out and call a decent probability trade. I have looked at some short ideas that were more local, and they had decent confirmations on them, and they worked out. I didn't take them, but they're not really anything that I would want to plan out at the moment. I don't think I would want to short any of these value area points or, say look for a golden pocket retracement of this leg. I just don't think we're really in the environment to be looking for those kind of shorts. But, I could plan out something from this high. I think that's a decent idea there. We have seen market cipher on a lot of time frames, really going to move to the downside, especially these lower time frames. So there's certainly bear div potential if we get some kind of a bounce here. We could see momentum put in a lower high and maybe price SFPs that high. That could mark another local top. So, I will plan out this trade, but I'm definitely going to be more cautious with shorts, especially locally, and I would want to see some very clear confirmations for it. So, really locally, the only idea I would really have is, maybe an SFP this high, and who knows where the wick is going to land. If it is going to wick it out, I'm just going to kind of guesstimate a stop loss there and say, maybe this idea brings us down to take out these lows and back test value area low again. We could shoot for that higher risk reward. Maybe we're just shooting for that value area low. But for shorts, I really want to focus on the areas higher. So, unfortunately, I just deleted that fixed range. Let me get that back up, because I have found some confluence around this point of control that I do think is very interesting. And that would be, if my memory serves me correctly, a 3-hour order block. Or, you could also call it a 2-hour order block. It's, kind of a strange one because it's not the right color, but I'm going to use it anyway. So I like that confluence around that zone. And going to the 2-hour, you can see it's pretty much the same thing. Really, this order block kind of ends here, but I'll just use the 3-hour and take it up to this high. I'll go the larger one, and I think that's very interesting confluence. There are some other order blocks on this way up, but the reason I'm focusing on this one is really because the point of control is there. I'm kind of looking at this zone between the point of control and the value area low as like a gap in volume. Sure, there are some high volume nodes here, like this is a high volume node, but that's not really aligning with anything. And there is really nothing but a bunch of lower highs on this way down. Even this wick is higher than this wick, which is higher than this wick, I believe. Let me zoom in. Yep, this wick is higher than this one. This wick's higher than, we'll say, this one. So it's just a bunch of lower highs all the way up, which could mean a lot of stop losses. Anybody that shorted on this way down and left their stop loss above whatever significant high they left it at could, definitely get swept. And I think we could see a short squeeze continue up to that point of control, because I'd say so far we definitely have seen a short squeeze already. And there is one more bit of confluence in that area. If I take a fib pull from all-time high down to this low, that good old 786 is aligning with our point of control almost perfectly. I did just do a rough drawing, so maybe it's a better lineup than I thought, but who really cares? I'm more so looking at this as an area. Even if we, get above point of control and 786, but then lose it again, that could still work. But just because we have some very good confluence there doesn't mean this idea has to work. Again, I am, still going to be cautious with shorts, even if we get, continued move up to that zone. At that point, we would have seen a lot of bullishness, and it does make sense to at least get some kind of a temporary bounce from there, but doesn't mean it has to happen. I would, be watching for confirmations, as with any trade. So maybe we, ideally slowly work our way up there, start developing some bear divs on some lower time frames, very clear ones with money flow and momentum, and maybe there's even some kind of a local trade setup to go along with it. Potentially we front run that point of control, get a little move to the downside, and then SFP into that zone, closing back as a wick with bear divs. Then that's usually a better setup in my opinion, because you can trade this as a local setup, get decent risk reward, de-risk it locally, like just aim for that previous low. And then if it continues to run, it continues to run. If it just ends up being a temporary retracement, then all right, well, hopefully you locked in the trade and moved your stop loss to entry. I usually like to look for local setups to go along with my higher time frame ideas anyway, but specifically in this case, when I am kind of trading against the larger trend, especially when it's this aggressive of a trend, I would certainly like to see something like that. I am definitely not going to be setting a limit order there, and I also most likely will not be trading it if price just gets like one move up into this area without much confirmation at all. Even if we're hitting into this key zone with a lot of confluence, if I don't see what I want to see, I'm not going to take a trade there. But I will have a position here just to kind of remind myself that I am looking at this zone for an idea. And is there anything else I would really look at? There is potentially more order blocks to look at, which may have confluence with that value area high. You could look at this one. Again, it's the wrong color, but, it could still work. It's something. So maybe you want to look at that value area high as well. And same thing certainly applies here. I would like to see confirmations, or I am not going to consider anything from there. And aside from that, do I think there's going to be a super juicy short trade from all-time high? Maybe. I tend to think that if we're going to take out this high, it's probably going to be an aggressive move, even if it ends up being a wick. There's probably a lot of people with short stop losses up here, and that could go like way, way up here. So maybe we see like a really aggressive wick, take all those guys out. So I'm not really going to plan out anything at all-time high right now. We'll see what happens from there. And I think that's really it for shorts. Again, I want to emphasize, I think this one looks better. I like the point of control. I like the confluence with the 786. But, I think this idea over here, the second idea, could work. So might as well have an idea there, but it is definitely my least favorable one. I think if we get above point of control, I would be hesitant to short until we lose point of control again. That's really my reason. So yeah, really with this one, I would say I absolutely have to see some kind of a local setup, and I'd really want to try and de-risk it before we get down to point of control, or try and de-risk it around point of control, because there's a chance we reject from value area high just to come down to point of control to find support to move higher. So with this one, I absolutely have to see some kind of a local setup that gives me good risk reward locally. Otherwise, I'm not touching it. And I think as it stands right now, those are, really the only ideas that I want to have laid out on my chart. Other than that, I'm going to be focused on trading the local price action. I did come up with some local ideas, but they could change very quickly. Yeah, that is really about it for this video. Thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I appreciate the support on the channel, and I will see you all in the next one.